What does everyone do but won't admit? Don't go to see the doctor when they know they should. Have you seen or experienced the state of healthcare these days? Seeing a doctor is the equivalent of starting a business with an abusive alcoholic. You are going to get humiliated, and all your money stolen, and probably end up in worse health than you started with. I know all this from living in Texas for 28 years. I need to go to the doctor, could be serious, but I also don't have health insurance until a few weeks when I bank enough hours so I'll wait. Don't want to be bankrupt over something that could be minor. I'll deal with it in a few weeks. It's depressing knowing that if you lose your job you either don't get health care or be in massive debt. I'll always have police service, always have firefighters, but medical? You gotta pay for that. Have and even win an argument with a stranger from an encounter 3 years ago when you didn't say anything street the time. I still think of the rude lady at Walmart who scoffed at me and said first time shopping, and I had my cart pushed like 90% of the way out of the aisle with maybe like 6 inches between the cart and the open concept floor freezers. I looked at her with a big friendly grin and chuckled and said no, and looked around confused wondering if she had no way around me. I realized I had stepped like 5 foot away from my cart, but the aisle was completely open and I was not instructing her in any way. She said, "Well, you certainly don't act like it," in a snarky tone and lazily moved way around my cart. I just said, "Excuse me," with the most gentle and kind smile I could manage. I'm usually extremely confrontational and still daydream of jumping down her throat or mocking her relentlessly. Tried to sing, like, really good. When I'm alone, I be hitting those high notes even though I sound like a dying walrus. I think this is common, but I honestly never sing in the shower or in my car. My friends have told me it's odd that I don't. I'm just a very much in my head person. Like I'll even imagine having a good voice and like in it in a talent show, but I never actually sing out loud. I rarely say anything out loud if I'm alone. Give advice that they don't follow. That's why easier said than done is a thing. We all usually know what we should do. Sometimes someone else can see that better, but acting on that information. I think most of us delay it at best or completely fail to do it because that's the easy road. Like I've been saying for years that I need to quit smoking, but I'm typing from my smoking spot. Wonder if people that have since long disappeared from your life or you've only met once or twice from time to time still think about you. One time when I was like 12 years old, I met this kid at the airport while traveling across the country to visit family in Chicago. He had a SpongeBob backpack and instantly I knew we'd be great friends. He and I ended up sitting next to each other on the plane and we just vibed so hard together and sang SpongeBob songs the entire flight. At the end, he said to me, "You are one of the most amazing people I've ever met. I will never forget you. Please promise me you won't forget me too." And to this day, I'll think about him from time to time. I wonder if he still thinks of me too or if he's forgotten. I found out a few months back that someone I used to be best friends and eventually became involved with died in an accident. In his mid-30s, things didn't end well between us. He broke my heart and we hadn't spoken in about 8 years. Over the years, I've harbored a lot of pain and resentment about the hurt he caused. Anyway, following the news of his death, I was thrown into a new kind of grief over him, and all I desperately wanted to know was, did he ever still think of me over the last 8 years? I know he'd moved on, but did certain memories of us or me ever pop into his head over those years? I was absolutely flooded with so many memories in sharp relief, some I'd completely forgotten about. And I've really struggled knowing that I'm the only one left with those memories now. There's no other half to them anymore. I'll never know if I made as big an impact on him as he made on me. I struggle with this thought a lot. Did he ever still think about me? I had a friend in high school who has since completely disappeared from the face of the earth. Last I saw mention of her, she was teaching ESL somewhere in China, but there's no trace of her on any social media that I've been able to find in the decades since. I know things weren't great for her growing up and assume she got out of Dodge, but I'd love to touch base and find out how she's been doing these days. Sabrina Hoyland, if you're out there, I miss you and hope you're well. I had a really good friend and I made the mistake of having a business dealing with him. We had a falling out over it and haven't spoken to him in more than a decade. I think about him all the time. He was like a brother to me. My wife says likely the never thinks of me, which I know is probably true, and it still makes me sad all these years later. Only really occurred to me as a thing after my best friend of 30 years went out of my life. It's been 7 years now since I saw her, but I still have dreams about her. I have years worth of memories of her, and it's hardly surprising my brain has a chunk of emotional space for her. But does she think or dream about me? I bet she doesn't think about me, because if she ever finds her mind wandering in that direction, she stops it dead like whatever, who, that. But you can't stop your brain dreaming. So yeah, probably she dreams about me. I still think about friends from high school 20 years ago, even though I've had no contact with them since. Sadly, I wasn't the kind of person to keep in contact, or even know how to be friends outside of school. Some sort of social disability, I think. Can't even remember some of their names anymore, yet I still feel very fondly toward them. I wish they all knew I highly regard them and wish them the best in life. But no, I don't want to get in contact with them again. If you think they might, they probably do. I reached out to the person who I would have called my grade school bully on, I guess, the other month. He wound up doing pro football and is successful, no surprise there. He was always mega athletic, and after 25 odd years, he remembered me and apologized for a thing he did once. This morning I found out about the untimely passing of an acquaintance, the sibling of a dear friend of mine. I haven't interacted with her since 2014, but she apparently still remembered me and thought I was really cool, as I discovered after touching base with my friend today. Sometimes you impact people more than you ever know. It can't hurt to think you might have done some good in their lives. During the pandemic, I was flying back to the US from Montreal. My seat was next to this older Jewish guy with a crazy beard. Flight was 3 hours. Initially, he didn't seem like he was interested in chatting, so I left him alone. Flight attendants came by with the standard tray of like pretzels and other cheap snacks, but they didn't have anything he wanted. He asked if they had anything different, and she said no, so I offered him some of my Lay's chips and Welch's fruit snacks I picked up a few minutes before we boarded, and we sat there the whole flight talking about politics, life experiences, women, work, etc. He was like 30 years my elder, but as we were leaving the plane, he stopped me and said something like, "Whatever happens in your life, I hope things go well for you." We shook hands and off he went to catch his connecting flight. I sometimes wonder where he is today, if he's still alive. All I know is that I couldn't pronounce his name. He wasn't good with technology, so he probably can't find any of my social media, and that he was headed to Texas after a connecting flight in Charlotte. I could never justify why anyone from my past would think about me. I have trouble valuing myself or realizing what my personal value is anyone, so to even consider other people thinking about me just seems stupid. They clearly didn't care about me, so why should they? Or even if they did, I wasn't worth that much, you know? I know it's not impossible, but I just can't justify it, even if I think about them all the time. Old fart here. This becomes more intense the older you get. I often have a random thought bubble in my brain about a fumble I had with a girl in a tent on a campsite in Wales when I was about 15 years old. I'm 50 in November. She had curly black hair, came from Basingstoke, and had huge nipples. She wrote to me twice after the holiday ended, and like a stupid teenager I never replied. She pops up quite a lot, not because nipples per se, but because I worry that she might have thought I was boyfriend material and I came across as not feeling it. If you're out there, thanks for being the first woman who let me have a good go on your knockers and being the #1 entry in the Spank Bank alongside Chris Johnson's mom in that summer dress, circa 1988. Take a huge dump and just sit there like, damn, that was awesome. I find that arguing in my head with someone who I haven't actually had the conversation with yet actually makes things worse when the conversation finally takes place. If it plays out exactly as I thought, I get super agitated because it's a gotcha moment of, see, I knew you were going to say that. And somehow I'm more upset that I guessed right. If it doesn't play out exactly as I thought, then suddenly I'm caught off guard and don't necessarily accomplish what I wanted, which later makes me frustrated at myself for being derailed. Judge, we all do it. It's about being intelligent enough to not let that cloud our perspective. I never understood this statement. Our judgment is one of the things which makes us a highly evolved species. We should be judging all the time. That's how life works. I'm guessing the people that say one should not be judgmental ever are saying it based on religious root causes. If people mean to say don't be in whole about your opinion, that's a different matter entirely. Judging is good when it comes from a place of honesty. Finding and knowing the truth is one of life's highest purposes. This most definitely includes the truth about people. If we refuse to look upon others clearly and form accurate conclusions about their characters and intentions, then we're hiding from reality. What isn't good is judging someone dishonestly, looking for an excuse to condemn someone because of issues within ourselves. This often takes the form of demanding perfection from others. There are no perfect people, and our imperfections should not be maliciously used to condemn us. We also can't expect other people to change or to be able to somehow change other people. People are as they are, and we must either accept someone along with his failings or cut contact. I am as objective as human being may be. If I think something, I think that. I don't say it because I want it to be true or that I am favoring something, etc. I was like that since childhood. I remember hating that cars are for bots and dolls for girls, etc. Unless you mean when someone does something stupid, there is no way to not judge that. But I am the person who hates aggression. When people wish someone death or torture because that person did something bad, I am the only one who say that this is bad and that the person shouldn't be treated that way even if they did something very bad. I am hated for not hating. My mom was a beauty and participated in pageants when she was young and was always disappointed in how ugly I was and put me down. Sadly, it still means a lot to me anytime anyone hints that I'm attractive. I remember totally small like how several years ago, I got passport pictures taken and expressed something like, oh, they turned out okay. And the photo guy in CVS was like, yeah, you're really pretty. I was shocked, but it gave me a drop in my self-esteem bucket that I cling to this day. You know what's about this? I really like to give compliments and I really mean them, and I used to do it all the time. But I had to stop giving men compliments because especially if I was at work they would get the wrong idea and think I was interested in them. I'm talking about stuff like, I love your shirt. I just want to be able to say something nice, damn it. Of course, not all men take it that way, but it was enough to deter me. Anyway, I hope someone out there remembers a compliment I gave them. That would be really cool. When my husband and I were younger, he was a competitive bodybuilder. I was lean and cute, but more like a dorky, socially awkward wallflower. I was secure enough that I knew he loved me, even though I was not like any of the other bodybuilders' girlfriends. I knew I was pretty, but not one of the beautiful people, the hot chicks, the eye candy. I often felt uncomfortable at the parties we would go to, surrounded by these super hot chicks and their 6-inch heels, and they were so cool. I was explaining to a work buddy, saying, so here I am, feeling awkward, because I am surrounded by all of the beautiful people. She looked at me with a what the look on her face and said, Biscuit, you are one of the beautiful people. That comment floored me. I thought, wow, she thinks I am one of the beautiful people. And then another time, at a bodybuilding show, I was walking up to my husband, who had his back to me talking to another competitor. The dude he was talking to was looking wide-eyes at me up and down, saying something to my husband about me. My husband turns around, sees me, and said, dude, that's my wife. I remember those compliments. They made me feel good. And even though my mother, my friends, my boyfriends, and husband always told me I was pretty, it felt more sincere coming from strangers or mere acquaintances. I'm still riding that one compliment I got while getting gas at a Sunoco near where I live. 2 women driving past, the one in the passenger side yells out, you're cute, and they kept on driving. I didn't recognize who it was, but part of me still thinks it may have been someone riding with a friend of mine, but then again I didn't recognize the car either. Then there's the part of me that laments that I would never know that person, and that possibility still remains that they were straight-in with me. About a year or 2 ago, this really cute supply girl came by my shop to drop off orders. I was at the front counter at the time, and before she left she was saying bye to me and my coworker. She put her elbows on the counter. It's pretty tall, so it wasn't suggestive or anything. Asked what book I was reading, then said, I like your face. I didn't know how to respond, and I said, I like your face. So yeah, I still think about that when I'm down. Johnny, thanks for re-gem. Probably complain. No one likes a complainer, but everyone I've ever met complains about crap. There was an interesting theory I read about primates with nostrils big enough to fit a finger were more preferred by natural selection. Their hypothesis was basically that primates that ate their boogers had healthier immune systems. A booger vaccine program. I mean, it's plausible, but it's also plausible that someone got made fun of in primary school for eating a booger and it set them on a path to prove everyone wrong. Well, I won't disagree with your point, but I would like to mention that nose picking can cause nosebleeds. When I was younger, I picked my nose a lot and had many nosebleeds, from small ones to ones that made me horribly lightheaded. Sometimes I broke myself free of the habit, and although I still had a few, there was a substantial decrease in the amount of nosebleeds I had. If I went back to it, more frequent nosebleeds. It may have to do with the dry air and sudden drastic temperature changes where I live. But I know that part of the issue was nose picking. But hey, every human is different, and you can have this opinion. I know this doesn't happen for everyone. Home Alone farts that rattle the windows and scare the pets. The neighbors' pets. One of the main reasons I moved out of my parents' house years ago was my very loud and frequent farts. They wouldn't say it to my face, but I could tell they were fed up with it, especially during the night. And I was ashamed and felt disgusting and guilty. Our walls were very thin. Even after not eating or drinking anything for 15+ hours, I would still have loud farts. Ever since I started living on my own, however, I have huge appreciation for my newfound freedom to be disgusting with my home alone fart. But whenever they visit or I have guests over, I have to be extra careful and considerate as to not let one rip. It can be painful to hold it in most of the time for us over-the-top gassy folks. Sometimes I forget there is someone in the house when I have visitors, and when I do it, I'm immediately embarrassed, like what did I just do? I woke everybody up with that. I constantly talk to myself. My husband was sure he heard me talking to someone, but I told him I wasn't. He snuck up on me to try and catch me out, nearly gave me a heart attack, and was so confused when my phone was off across the room. I finally confessed I carried out entire conversations with myself. I also speak aloud new endings I have constructed for books that judge people as being horrible human beings for doing things while driving that you excuse as being okay if you yourself do it. I get annoyed when someone does something wrong, but as long as their continued driving reflects sensibility, then I understand that mistakes happen. There's accidentally forgetting to use a turn signal once. It's a different thing to be driving erratically, never using turn signals, being unable to turn without crossing lanes, being slow to move on a green light, parking over lines, making illegal turns, unsafely passing, completely stopping to turn, etc. Somehow it seems like the people who do any one of these things usually do most of them frequently. Those people should have their licenses confiscated. This is one of the few here I don't do. I don't understand road rage, and I never can look at someone the same way if I see them go off in a car. Nicest person I thought I knew starts flipping people off. I rethink how close I want to get to them. When I drive, I focus on all the cars around me and make it a game to figure out what they could do and what I'd do. It's a head-up game, but I find it fun. It's why I've never gotten into an accident. Honestly, I feel like even the nicest people become the biggest jerks while driving. My extremely nice aunt shamelessly admitted to road raging because someone cut her off or something. All I said was I don't do anything towards road ragers. I just focus on keeping myself alive because my life is usually in danger when someone is road raging. She paused and then said I could learn from you. Fantasize about others. Not only should you look at your poop, you should check the TP, although that's not always necessary. Speaking as someone with GI issues, you might catch something you would not see as it nestles in the bowl. You can see bleeding before it gets bad, etc. On a related note, remember when Burger King had a limited edition black burger around Halloween many years back? Someone at work brought about 25 of them and everyone chowed down. The next day, only a few of us sheepishly confessed that our dookie was really green. Got to know the peepers in our department. Some folks were genuinely frightened and thought they were only hours from death, but most were completely unaware. Funny as talk behind people's backs. I made a point of reducing that habit to a bare minimum. Save from Toxicus hats, about whom I'll warn people, either I praise people in their back or I hold my tongue. First off, it actually feels better. Then, it prevents from getting bitten by my own words, and finally, it doesn't get my friends to wonder what I'd say about them when they're not around. Generally, a huge life improvement. We are all going longer than 1 week between bedsheet washes. Those with asthma, acne, dust mite allergy, and sensory issues though, I know a few asthmatics who change them more than once a week. I've seen some nasty sheets though, and slept on a few of them, including ones that were just thrown away annually because the skin oil buildup destroys the fabric eventually. That's something I don't miss about that ex. Have hero fantasies. I don't know if everyone does this, but I'd like to know. When I read about something horrible, I put on my proverbial cape and fix it. Maybe I am there to see the rape or murder before it happens and stop it. Sometimes I prepare a humble speech for the press as well. I think, on some level, it's a coping mechanism. Instead of being hateful and bitter, I fix the problem. I fix nothing, of course, but I'll be able to shake off the feeling of despair for a while. I think it's pretty up most of these are bodily functions or have to do with them. Like everyone has snot and have at some point picked their nose, everyone farts, and pisses and probably have done them all at an inconvenient time or place at some point, and a majority of people are masturbating fairly regularly. It's weird that these things are considered shameful or embarrassing things people don't want to admit. I feel like every statistic about peeing in the shower is complete bull. There's no way that you can wash your crack with your bare hands and tell me that you're grossed out by peeing in the shower. You're claiming that soap can clean skin that has had on it, but that same soap can't rinse the piss down the drain. Smell themselves when they smell bad and like it. This can be like those warm farts that smell like something has rotten inside of you and you just let out the fumes. Like it's wet and sometimes even bubbles. Or like your smelly feet that smell like rice and cardboards, or your pungent armpit sweat or the oil of your hair. I'm a woman, by the way. Nasty. I promise I shower when I go out. People don't have to be subjected to your smell. Enjoy the smell of their own farts. People have said smell farts, but haven't mentioned enjoying it. It's literally a scientific fact that humans, for whatever reason, enjoy the smell of their own farts. For some reason, the brain releases dopamine and serotonin as a result. And it's actually been pretty strongly linked to health benefits, both mental and physical. Most studies point their fingers at hydrogen sulfide gas, but there are strong correlations between smelling farts and heart, kidney disease prevention. As far as enjoyment goes, though, other people's farts are a big fat nope. Everything here is thought through, socially acceptable stuff. Where are the thoughts of murder and rape? I'm sure there must be a not insignificant amount of those, it's just that most people never act on those. Knowing my own mind makes me despair over the fact that likely everyone is like that weirdo going off in there. There's more than enough stuff people won't admit even anonymously on Reddit. Reality is ugly by default. Making it beautiful requires a lot of effort.